Our group chose to do family communication within the military family for our topic. And specifically, what I'm going to focus on is family reintegration after deployment. And as part of that focus, I'm going to look at leading up to deployment, during deployment, and after deployment, how that reintegration process works, and key things that might affect that. And I'm going to cover just a few of those things from my paper for you guys, kind of give you a baseline for what to expect. The first thing that I want to mention is that expectations are often unrealistic and romanticized leading up to a deployment. So when this happens, the family of the service member, spouse, children, partner, whoever, oftentimes comes away or goes into a deployment not realizing what communication challenges there will be, not realizing what the service member is going to be able to share about their job and their daily life over there. And it creates a disconnect between the service member's ability to reach back and engage with family. The next thing I'd like to talk about is ambiguity and changing of roles during deployment. Oftentimes a family will adopt, out of necessity, a new normal for the family back home. And this is not in an attempt to push the service member out, but it's just out of necessity. They have to assume roles or positions or have ambiguity with what used to happen, just to cover down on the things that service member used to do and used to contribute to the family. Now, there's a lot of there's a lot of potential for physical and emotional scars as well for service members that are returning home. And during this time, that can affect the service member, and oftentimes they have a difficulty expressing themselves, and so that hinders the reintegration process as well. The next thing I'd like to cover is some specific emotional challenges that the service member and their families might deal with, and that's depression primarily, and turbulence. And these two issues popped up a couple times in the research. And basically the depression from as a result of some of the things I mentioned already, and turbulence occurs because of inability to express concerns, emotions properly. These result in unintended communication errors from service member to partner or spouse and children, and vice versa. Now, the next two things I want to cover are just a couple brief techniques that can be used to try to mitigate some of the communication challenges. Now, some of those that were brought up, resiliency. The idea of resiliency is not a new concept in the military, but implementing it in daily life has proved challenging. One thing that a lot of units try to do, and it's a command-supported initiative, is to have a family readiness group. And their primary goal is to support the family of the service member while the service member is deployed. And they host events that try to bond the families of service members together so that they have something in common that they can share while that service member's gone. And then they have training. And the training is directed primarily at the service member to help the service member know how to cope with curveballs, essentially, that are being thrown their way, and how to overcome and improvise and adapt and be successful. And then the last thing I'd like to cover, that's a way to mitigate some of the effects of communication challenges, is just proactive communication. Having the experience or being able to rely on the experience of someone else to help prepare you, to know what to talk about as a family, as partners in a relationship, prior to, during, and after. And that'll help manage expectations. It'll help try to avoid some of those unrealistic views, to be able to know what the partner, what the children can expect from communication, have some kind of idea, and so that service member can start to convey a little bit ahead of time hey, this is what we realistically can expect, and not to expect that it's going to all of a sudden immediately click back into place once the deployment is over, because there is a period of time where they need to adjust and reestablish those roles that they had. And so these are just the things that I found in the research, and also from my experience in the military. And so we're going to bring these and the rest of my group's topics into our case study and incorporate those. So thank you for listening.